really learning what that looks like, ice baths after tournament rounds, Normatex after tournament rounds, stretching before I fall asleep, just these little things that make me 1% better every day, right? That, you add these up over a year, it's going to make a big difference.
This is the Tournament Code.
We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Caleb. We know a little about you. We've heard some good things about you from Coach Webb. But before we get into playing at UT, everything else around your amateur career, let's kind of just start at the beginning. How'd you get into the game of golf?
Yeah, absolutely. So started pretty young, obviously, and I don't really know the exact age when I started. My dad was a world long drive guy, so he chased that career for 8 to 10 years and took it pretty seriously after college baseball. So I kind of followed in his footsteps a little bit. I would go in our garage and we would have drivers that were taller than me at the time, with 1 degree of loft. And, we got like 20 or 30 of those laying around. So that was always pretty intriguing to me. And, I'm for sure it was definitely around 8 or 9 when I started going out to the course with him and was like, okay, this is fun, and I'd see him hit it far. And to me then it was like watching, Rory McIlroy hit a golf shot, even though it wasn't obviously, but when you hear his ball take off, I'm like, wow, I want to hit it like that. So then and then I just went down the rabbit hole, and you know how it goes. You hit one good shot, then you just want to hit the rest of them good forever. And so started when I was 8 or 9 after whacking around the Nerf ball for a couple of years, but it was definitely a fun part of life. And I'll never forget going out to Charlotte National Golf Club when I was 9 years old.
When did you start playing in junior tournaments or decided you even wanted to play competitively?
Yeah, it was probably that like 10, 11, 12 range was kind of when I would say like in Charlotte, I started to play around. They have like the U.S. Kids Local Tour. So I'd spent some time on that playing just local courses around Charlotte when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe not 13. And then kind of once I turned 13, I was fortunate enough for a guy named Eric Murray, father to Grayson Murray, to take a liking into me, who runs the Tar Heel Golf Foundation in North Carolina, and they're an awesome foundation, and they were nothing but great to me. So I ended up playing on their tour for 2 to 3 years, and kind of moved into some Carolinas Golf Association stuff, and and then the rest was kind of for a later talk.
At what point did you start thinking about, I want to play college golf and start talking to coaches and things like that?
Yeah, so I would say, the coolest thing about the Tar Heel Golf Foundation when I was in that 13 through 15 range was pretty much all the courses that they go play, interesting enough, were like college golf courses, if that makes sense. So they would pretty much play the same courses around North Carolina, which would consist of like UNCW's course, Lonnie Poole in North Carolina, NC State's course, UNC Findlay, UNC's golf course, So you're traveling around all these great places, and it kind of hit me during those times when you're on the front of the range warming up for your round, and you see college guys rolling up drivers from the back of the range to the front, and you're like, that was kind of when it hit me. I was like, wow, I really want to go do this, and started seeing a little bit of so-called success on that tour, and that was when I just fell in love with it, and I stopped playing all other sports that I was playing and knew it was what I wanted to do.
That is awesome. It kind of sounds like you started the game early and then competitive golf came a little later for you, which is cool to hear. You said your dad did a lot of world long drive stuff. Tell us about the development of your swing and coaching, whether you're working with dad, whether you found other people to work with, what that development looked like.
Yeah, so I've pretty much had 2 to 3 swing coaches my whole life. So kind of started off when I was younger. The first guy I ever really took lessons from was a guy named Aaron Black. He's working on a Springfield Golf Club in Indian Land, South Carolina now. He was kind of just your typical PGA pro, PGA Golf of America pro. Didn't really give a ton of lessons. I'd go work with him out at, it was called Charlotte Golf Links, which is a shopping center now. But used to be a fun spot, so I'd go out there with him, and he was always great to me. He played a little bit on the Australian tour, so he knew the swing, and he taught me how to swing it athletically at a young age. And my dad really liked him because he really Aaron himself really liked the idea of a one-piece swing, big muscles at all times, especially when I was younger. And my dad, that was music to his ears, here being a long drive guy. So he wanted me to, learn how to swing it athletically first before I started chasing distance. Some people like to go the other way. Your best junior golfers when they're 12 or 13 are the ones who are driving the green. But I was always a kid who was hitting driver 3-wood into par 4s for the longest time. So I kind of had to deal with that for a while. And, when the growth spurt hit and the game changed for me, and I moved into a guy named Chase Duncan in Raleigh. Me and Aaron don't really talk anymore, but he was awesome to me until I was about 13 or 14. And yeah, so Chase has been great to me. I've been working with Chase since I was 15 now, so 4 years. He's been he's the only guy I talk to about my swing. He's the only guy I let talk to me about my swing. I don't really ever really ask anyone else. So he's been my guy, and he's been great to me. So, and then I always try and keep Coach Webb informed. I'm sure we'll talk about him a little bit about what me and Chase are working on. So he can chime in every once in a while, but Chase has been my guy, and he's definitely a guy I'm going to have in the future.
Yeah, Chase Duncan definitely has a lot of good players, and he's pretty popular on Instagram. He's Own Your Own Golf Game. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's right. He loves the social side, but he's a good coach. That's what people don't see.
Perfect. That's what I thought. So what specifically have you guys worked on since you started working with Chase?
That's a tough question because it's just been such a long journey. I'd say the most predominant thing that I've had to work on was kind of getting out of this hanging back flip motion, because when you're younger, all you want to do is hit the ball far. And, once I started getting 15, I was like starting to put on a little weight, and I was like, wow, I might be able to start hitting the ball out there. So, I'd start hanging back on my right side, dropping my head way down, swinging way up on it, flipping it from the inside. So what me and Chase have done is the first year and a half was pretty much fully consisted of finding a way to get the club in front of me at all times, right? To be able to have the club coming down on, if not over the plane, with no flip. And, there's still, in allowing myself to clear out of the way to do that. So there's still a lot of those tendencies that I still deal with today, like that we work on, but it's not as severe at all. But there's kind of one move in my swing that I could really talk about that I've been like pinpointing, if that makes sense. Like I haven't overcorrected it. We've been working on it since April, I'd say, which would be kind of when I'm at the top of my swing and I'm coming down. We're trying to get the club head like to be much more outside. So I like to put this stick behind me. So the goal is to like miss the stick on the way down. So it's feeling like I'm hitting really down and really far left on it. And it's, it produces kind of this like medium flight cut. But what it does is it gets the club in front of me. So it's still kind of the same thing, but it's just a new way of looking at it. And it gets my hands exiting low and left, which has no flip. And, when I'm playing my best golf, we've really found that I'm swinging it 1 to 3 left with pretty much all my clubs. So we're pretty much trying to hit those parameters at all times.
Sounds like you're pretty involved in swing mechanics, taking swing videos, talking to your coach. Would you say that you're more interested or focused on swing mechanics than your peers, or the same or less than?
Yeah, I would say so, honestly. Everybody's different. So everybody's kind of got different ways of learning. Everybody's got their different ways of figuring out how they play good golf. And, for me, like I found that like I get confidence when I know that I'm swinging it like that, like regardless of what it looks like, 'cause I don't really look at it a lot, but I'm sure it looks similar, is when I know I'm swinging down and left on every swing, like it gives me the freedom to go out on the golf course and try any shot that I want, because I know that my baseline is right where it needs to be in order to execute. So that being said, I definitely, it's something that I think about a lot, but it's not necessarily like I'm working on something new every day, So some people are mechanical to the point where they're working on something every day. I'm kind of mechanical to the point of where I'm checking my thing to make sure it's hitting the correct baseline almost every day, and then I do all my practice based on that, because I know that's when I'm playing my best golf. So that's how I ensure my best practice.
As you kind of mentioned, the playing golf is a little bit different than playing golf swing. For you have a great golf swing, but you don't get to go to college and play at a high level just by having a great golf swing. Tell us about your junior golf career and just how you improved over that time, not just with your swing, but with getting the ball in the hole.
I would kind of start that question kind of like in the 15 on range, because that was kind of the first time when I really started thinking about the mental side of the game. At a younger age, it was just, bomb it and hit my through it on the green and go on. But, kind of when I started getting 15, I started learning a lot about emotions, when I was younger and still now, like never had the silver spoon. So, always had to, feel like I had to earn opportunities. My dad's made millions of sacrifices for me that, I can't even fathom. So, just kind of playing with that in the back of my head and practicing with all that in the back of my head, it just made me want it really bad. And I still do. So, that being said, I've just never wanted to give anything away, if that makes sense. Like there's just been countless times where I'm over a 10-foot par putt and I'm like, I'm making this putt. Like I'm not giving this away, like just stuff like that. So that was kind of when I learned, that side of the game, like that's kind of more of like the intention and grit side, but I also had to kind of learn the emotional side, right? Like, as you guys know, like you can never play on an emotional roller coaster. If you are, you better hide the rise as much as you're going to ride the lows. So, so I've tried to stay in the middle, but for the longest time I'd get really, really happy and then double the next hole, wouldn't talk to anybody, and then make a hole out eagle, and then it would just be a constant roller coaster. So I've had to learn that, and I've had to learn, especially when I got 16, 17, 18, was fortunate enough to play a lot on the AJGA and start playing some amateur golf. And I think for a year straight in the AJGA tour, in the invitational, so definitely the top tier junior events, best events in the country, I was probably in 7 or 8 final groups and didn't win one time for a year. So like, had done everything right, get in the final group, was leading probably 5 of those and didn't win a single one. And, this was kind of in my transitional phase of when I, had previously gone from NC State to Tennessee. And, kind of the first thing that Coach Webb taught me is that I'm never going to win by trying to win. So, that was kind of once I committed to him and once we started working, a lot more of those final groups turned into some wins. But, it wasn't because I got any better. It was just kind of because of the fact that I had to learn that I just got to control my process on every single shot. And, I have no attachment to any of the results, and, I can't control what's going to happen. So that was when I really learned that. And that was when I became much more complete of a player.
Tell us about Coach Webb's role in your game. College golf coaches, their role in players' games varies depending on the coach, depending on the player, etc. We know that he's, in a good way, generally involved with you, and as you said right there, has helped you understand what it takes to win and not forcing it. Tell us about coming to Tennessee, committing to Tennessee, and what Coach Webb's role with you has been.
Yeah, I mean, he's played, probably aside from my dad in my life and my mom, like he's definitely in the top 5 people that have had the biggest influence on my life. So, he's also made so many sacrifices for me. And, he obviously has it pretty good, but, that is not to be said there's a lot to be said for the sacrifices he's still made and the effort that he puts in. As much effort as I put in towards my golf, like he almost matches it towards my golf, which is very impressive, for him, especially to have to do all the things he does and all the things behind the doors that I don't even know about. So, he's, I'll never forget him coming to Bandon Dunes and caddying for me out at the U.S. Junior last year, U.S. Amateur last year, U.S. Amateur this year. And then, pretty much every single college tournament, he walks with me all 54 holes. So he really wants me to be great. And, I think he really sees that in me. And, it's pretty obvious, in our relationship that, we both have the same mindset and that we're both striving for the same things. And, I couldn't pick a better guy in the world probably to be on my side and be for me.
You mentioned just now all the, elite amateur and junior tournaments that you've played in the country. And earlier this year, you actually Monday qualified for Farmers Insurance Open on the PGA Tour. So I'd like you to talk about, how that was different from, like a US amateur, US junior amateur, and what you learned from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So the kind of little bit of backstory to that was actually, so I played the American Express the week prior. I had got a sponsor exemption into the event and ended up, it's a 3-day cut at the American Express now. So it was interesting. So I think it was Saturday night, and I was like, or no, it was Friday night before the final round. I probably had to go shoot 4 under to make the cut, and I ended up shooting 3 under, missing by 1. But I was sitting there in my room on Friday night, and the Monday qualifier was in Temecula, and for some reason I was exempt into the Monday qualifiers this year. Still am for those tour events, which came from maybe something last year or top 50 Wagger or something, but was like sitting in my bed and I was like, Temecula is only 3 hours away, but I'm out in the middle of California by myself. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even have a rental car. So I was like, well, how do I work this out to maybe go play this Monday qualifier? This is a pretty good opportunity. So it turns out the guy who was caddying for me that week, Matt Hainline, works with Callaway Golf, super near and dear to me. He was like, "Are you playing the Monday?" He said this the next morning. I was like, "No." And he was like, "Well, I live in Temecula, right?" I was like, "No way." So turns out, like, he literally lives in the hometown. His house was 5 minutes from the golf course. So I ended up signing up that night and then just drove over there with him Sunday and played a practice round and, went out there Monday. And, still to my day, I tell a lot of people that was the craziest day of golf I have ever experienced. It was the most wind I've ever seen on a golf course. And, it's a lot being said, saying was in Scotland pretty recently, but it was like 40 to 50 miles per hour wind. I've never seen anything like it. I had a ball on the 6th green in the Monday qualifier. I'll never forget it. It was front right pin. I had 162. I hit a 4-iron to the middle of the green and literally just straight into the wind. And it was an incredible shot. And I was just licking my chops walking up to the green and just had my head down. And then as I'm looking up, I hear all these people behind the green start yelling, "Stop, stop." I was like, oh, I look up. I'm like, my ball is moving like towards the hole. Like, it came to a complete stop for a good minute and a half. And I get up there and the ball is just blowing directly towards the hole. Like, almost, it looks like it's really going in. Sure enough, like right when I get there, it stops and it's about 4 inches from the hole, and I tap in for birdie, literally, and go to the next hole. So, it was a crazy type of win. And I think I shot 3 under and ended up winning the Monday qualifier by 2, which in a Monday qualifier, 3 under, you're instantly getting in your car and leaving. So that was fun. And, that the Farmers Insurance Open was, that was a cool experience. I've always told Webb, I know this is a long-winded answer, but I've always told Webb, because he ended up coming to caddy for me for that in that event, that a couple of years back when I was going out there with my friend for Callaway when I was a freshman in high school, I saw the Tennessee golf team. And at the time I was committed to NC State. And I walk up to him and I was like, I told Webb, I was like, "Hey, Coach Andrews, how are you?" Because I just had no idea. So I called the head coach, the assistant coach, when I'm committed to another school at Torrey Pines. And I guess they were just out there playing. And, we were laughing at dinner one night because I was like, it's kind of cool that like the next time I'm here, would be my freshman year and you're caddying for me, like just crazy how life happened in those 3 years. So that was an awesome experience. And that Monday qualifier was something different.
That is providential. Tell us about committing to Tennessee and your college recruitment process.
Yeah, it was, as I said, I was priorly verbally committed to NC State, and then, decided to re-up my commitment when I was a junior in high school. And, was definitely fortunate enough to be looked at by plenty of top schools and, definitely have the pick of the bunch. And, I've never met 2 coaches that care more about their team than Webb and Bo do. So, and, now, especially now, we have our 3rd assistant, but at the time he wasn't in the organization at all. So, as soon as I talked to Webb, I pretty much knew that it was like, this guy is the guy that I need to be with. Like, we think the same. I didn't hear one coach, like, everyone was trying to sell me in a way, and he was just like, if you want to come, you can come. Like we're trying to be great. If you want to be great, you can come. And I was like, oh, well, sign me up like that. Everybody else is, can play. Everybody has their own ways, and there's a lot of great recruiters, but the Webb was clearly the guy for me. And I say to this day, it was definitely a top 2 or 3 decision I've ever made.
So I want to talk about this before we go into anything else. You recently just got back from Scotland playing on the Walker Cup team. What was that experience like playing with and against some of the best amateur golfers in the world? And for the past year or two, was it on your mind trying to make that team, or did you just try to play the best you can and whatever happens happened?
Yeah, I mean, Walker Cup's it was my biggest goal last year. I think we all, I'll never forget with my mentor last fall at the University of Tennessee, which is basically a tutor. We do these sheets every week, and it's like, what's your number one goal for the whole year? And my number one goal was always just make the Walker Cup. So, to shortly answer that, the first part of that, or the second part of that question, it was yes, it was on my mind in every event, almost every shot all year. And I definitely had some good play, but I struggled at times, and I think it was because I seriously let that weight, play a big role in my decisions, and it was a lot of pressure I was carrying on that I didn't need to be. But it's all a learning experience, because one day that's hopefully going to be a Ryder Cup, or whether it's going to be providing for my family or whatever that is. There's always going to be something that's going to be playing the role of that Walker Cup. So just learning how to deal with those, and really will really make me a better person, a better man in the future. But yeah, I mean, the experience in itself, once I was on the team, was unbeatable. Especially you go through a year of that pressure, and then you show up at St. Andrews with the team, or your gear arrives to your house, or whatever it was. It was just like, wow, like this is actually happening, and I'll never forget getting the call when I was in Chicago and being like, wow, you're on the team. And I was like, it was the most free I ever played. The next morning in a tournament, I played good in the Corn Ferry event, and it was, when I was over there with those boys, that was it was an experience like no other. It was, I don't know if I'll ever be able to experience something like that again.
It's cool to get to play at a high level, play with a bunch of good players. And obviously you have playing at Tennessee, playing at with the Walker Cup team, playing on PGA Tour events, playing at Corn Ferry events. When it comes to playing at events with a higher level and maybe to some people a higher sense of pressure, do you feel like it's an old hat for you? Is it a place you're comfortable in, or do you sometimes experience nerves or a sense of being out of place? And if so, what do you do to help manage any of that?
Yeah, I definitely would say, like, at times I can deal with nerves. I feel like if you're not nervous at all, you don't care, like, in a way, like that's always being said. But the truth is I never really feel out of place, no matter how big the stage is. I've never played in a major, so I can't really speak on that. But I've, in the 3 tour events I played, and a couple of Corn Ferry events now, like, this, I mean, it might sound really arrogant as though it's not intended to be, like, but when I show up at a Corn Ferry event, like, I feel like I'm the man, and I haven't really had crazy success out there yet. But, it's like when I'm on the range, I'm like, I just feel like I'm the guy to beat, so, or that's at least what I'm telling myself, so I'm trying not to give away the mental edge that they have, because the truth is, like, they were all me at one point. Right. And, there's a lot of people that would love to be in my position. And, I'm sure I would love to be in their position right now on the PGA Tour, but, there's plenty of guys that can look back and be like, my route was different, or whatever it may be. So I try and tell myself that, they're all just normal guys. They're all just guys that are really good at playing golf, and they're all guys that were doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now back then. So I never really feel crazy nervous as far as, like, unbearably not being able to hit golf shots. But I mean, I definitely felt a little nervous, but, especially in the Walker Cup too, like, I feel like I play better in the moment. I feel like I'm meant to play great in the moment, and I'm totally prepared for it, and I do my best to prepare for all those big opportunities.
We've talked about swing. We've talked about mental coaching. One thing we haven't talked about is working out and general athleticism. Tell us, obviously you got some pretty strong genes and probably pretty strong background. It sounds like you're playing a decent number of sports as a kid, and your dad being a multi-sport athlete goes a long way as far as helping get you in the right direction. Tell us a little bit about what working out looks like for you and how that's developed.
That's definitely been a roller coaster in itself. Just trying to figure out what's best for me, what's best for my body, especially as I grow. I kind of started when I was younger. We just playing sports, right? Kind of as the same of every middle school and early high school kid did. So didn't really think too much about it. And then, kind of once I moved into the junior senior year, I really got plugged in with a guy named Jonathan Avalos in Charlotte, who works under Ben Shear in Florida now. So, this was kind of my first time being like, wow, there's actually like fitness to golf other than like bench pressing, So this was kind of when I started seriously learning the ins and outs. And, we use this app on my phone still to this day called Train Heroic, and he programmed sessions that were kind of built for me. And it was awesome having him in Charlotte because I could go like get tested or whatever, and we would build different plans. So this Jonathan was a guy and still is, a guy that put a lot of effort in for me. And, that's played a big role in my fitness over time. And then kind of moving that question forward a little bit, you go to Tennessee and, you have every single resource possible that, I didn't have in Charlotte, right? I mean, you have cold tubs, hot tubs, Normatex, you have therapists, you have the gym, you have every single piece of equipment you ever need. So that was a bit of a shock at first. It was like, wow, I actually can do whatever I want. You can get too lost in this stuff, so it's important to have a plan. And definitely fortunate there's a guy here named Greg Adamson who has played another big role in my journey so far. And, he does a great job training all of us and getting us all right. So I'd say it's definitely a big role of golf, right? Strength training and making sure your body feels good, because I'm not sure I've ever really played great when I'm not really feeling good. So, I've kind of really jumped in, especially this year, moving that question forward again, is this year I've took a lot of hard head into, recovery. So really learning what that looks like, ice baths after tournament rounds, Normatex after tournament rounds, stretching before I fall asleep, just these little things that make me 1% better every day, right? That, you add these up over a year, it's going to make a big difference. So between Greg at Tennessee and Jonathan, who's still helping me now, and I'm still very focused on his, recovery and activation plans now. So, and especially Ben too. I've talked a lot with Ben, who Jonathan works under. So, you can go down the rabbit hole in the fitness world just as much as you can on the golf swing. It's crazy. And, it's definitely something I'm still learning more about. And to be 100% honest and humble about it, I mean, I don't know everything yet. As much as I like to say I know about golf and about the golf swing, it's one of those things. There's a lot of people in this world that know more than I do. And I'm just looking forward to continue to learn from them.
Absolutely. Those are good resources. Jonathan was on recently. He was episode 65 that dropped 2 weeks ago. And then funny that you mentioned Ben. He's traveling for a little bit, has a bunch of clients he's working with, but we're planning on scheduling him later because fitness is something we like to talk about. We've talked about with a good number of guests who are experts in there, including Jonathan. And I think something for golfers that fell by the wayside in the past was what it takes to be good. And this was back when distance necessarily wasn't recognized as being premium, and strength wasn't necessarily recognized as being important to having distance. And you hit the ball. I've seen the TrackMan numbers on Instagram. We've heard it from Coach Webb. You hit the ball pretty darn good and pretty darn far. Tell us specifically more like the workouts that you're running through Tennessee, because a lot of at least when I was in college, this was just when golf workouts, quote unquote, were coming in vogue, and it still wasn't necessarily much lifting or anything like that. It was a lot more mobility. And then after I stopped playing golf in college is about when, more lifting came into place, more actual strength training came into place. Tell us what those workouts look like.
Yeah. I mean, they can vary, but, as much as they can vary, I would say we're very on point with what we're doing. We do very similar stuff, as much as the different, as much as the different sessions vary, the the routine and the process of it does not. We work out 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 a.m. We get there at 5:45, 5:40. So this is a non-negotiable. This happens every single week, no matter where we are, what we're doing, and they can vary from like heaviness to lightness, like we'll go hard this week today and Friday this morning. And, we might take it easier next Monday because we're leaving for an event Tuesday, but that doesn't mean we're not going in on Monday at 5:30. So I would say that plays a huge role. The second you get out of the bed at 5:30, you're 1% better. So that's kind of what we're being breeded to do as athletes here at Tennessee. And, Coach Webb and Coach Greg have set the perfect standard for us in that sense. So, but the lift in themselves, to answer your question in full, it typically consists of we do these like prep movements, which is about a 10 to 15-minute series of, this is like strictly dynamic. This is strictly mobility. This is like strictly stretching, right? So, and it might be some activation, right? Like some sort of activation, right? Like to get you warmed up, maybe break a very light sweat. And then we'll pretty much break into what's called, just kind of our dynamic lift. So we'll go to strength 1, strength 2, strength 3, which is pretty much 2 to 3 segments every single workout, which consists of like one really, really deep compound heavy lift. And then, the second part of that segment would be, like a very dynamic lift, right? Like maybe like a row with the leg going back, like some sort of movement that's incorporating your body moving around rather than just sitting there lifting. So we'll pretty much do 3 of those 2 segments, right? Maybe it's 3 for 8 on both. And, typically around, that'll get you going, whether that's squat, then it's bench press, and then it's, I don't know, pistol squat, something along those lines. And then you're doing some sort of golf workout along with that. But, then towards the end of the workout, it gets a little more serious when we kind of get together as a team. Everybody kind of does those things as their own. We don't really focus too much on the little things. Like we don't match it workouts, we don't work out in perfect harmony, but we're all there to get better. And, we know that as long as we're there together working hard, we're going to be better. So then we come together as a team for pretty much the first time in the workout at about 6:40 each time. And we do what's called an EMOM, which a guy named Scott Stallings, I'm sure you guys have heard of him. He's kind of played a big role in our program as well. He's the most fit guy I've ever met. And, if you ever need anyone to push you physically, it's going to be him. So he kind of introduced this whole EMOM thing. He's come up with this business called Hard Work Pays Off. And, he's given us this new idea of these EMOMs, and what they are is it's called like each minute on the minute. So like we have 4 stations and we'll go for 8 minutes, and it's pretty much 40 seconds on, 40 seconds off. And it's 2 sets each with the thing. And, one of them is probably the assault bike. Typically one of them is probably like a ski machine or med ball throws or, farmer carries, whatever it is. This is what makes you throw up. We have guys throwing up all the time. This is kind of that 10 minutes of the workout. And then we stretch after. We're done by 7. We walk right downstairs and eat breakfast at Smokies. And, a lot of us like to go to the ice bath right after. And then we're prepped and ready for the day. So, it's pretty good routine, and it can be pretty brutal waking up early sometimes, but I'm never tired at 8 a.m. So it's really, really enjoyable. And you get a lot of confidence from it, knowing you're doing the right thing every day.
Yeah, something that stuck out to me when we were talking to Coach Webb, and I think it stuck out to him too, was when he was caddying for you in the U.S. Junior, and just the rigid daily routine that you stuck to. He talked about one morning of one of the matches, you guys were teeing off at 9 a.m., but it was your goal or routine rather to wake up at, I think it was 4:30 a.m. So you guys woke up at 4:30 a.m., went through your daily routine, and then played the match. Can you just walk us through kind of like a daily routine and what time you're waking up and what you're doing throughout the day? School, golf. We talked about working out, but everything else.
I think I have a really consistent routine here at school and on the road. I'd say, so as I said, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're looking at, pretty much 5:30 to 7:30, with breakfast and stretching involved and getting ready. That's pretty much our workout and physical time, right? I'd say pretty much from 9 a.m. to noon every day is school for me. I don't have any classes that start before or go over noon. So 9 to noon every day is my class time. That's when I get all my schoolwork done. But it's interesting because I think I take a little different approach to it. We wake up at 5:30 those 3 days, but Tuesdays and Thursdays I sleep till 9 and I don't eat breakfast. So I know that's a little interesting because you're like, how does a college athlete sleep until 9 o'clock? But it's important for me to get that sleep on those days because Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays are just such hard days, and I think that's a big part of my recovery. And then I knock out class, I go eat some lunch, and it's ready for practice. Practice, we don't do a ton of team practices just because everybody has their own deal, and we all like to come together and do our own thing. We don't really need to do putting drills together. We know what we're doing, and coach knows that. So we're productive out there. And I'd say pretty much from noon to 3, we're all practicing, and then maybe 3 to 5 or 6, we're all kind of playing out there at our facility. We got these little scooters, so we're playing little 2-man games. We're zipping around, short game games. Just always competing and having fun. So, and then maybe we'll try and play on the weekends, but. For me, I really like to shut it down personally every day around 7 o'clock if I can. I think that 7 to 10 o'clock at night thing is some of the most valuable time of my day. I don't like doing anything, to be honest. That's my chill time. That's when I don't think about golf. I don't touch my clubs. I don't think about, I don't call anybody about golf. That's when I like to disconnect and, be a college kid sometimes and, just enjoy what I got here in Tennessee. And, I think that definitely allows me to play more free and definitely treat golf more like a job rather than a must do,
How hard is that to do, to shut down golf and try not to think about it?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably gotten easier over time. I think the harder you work sometimes and the more stuff you continue to do, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes. And especially traveling every single week. I used to be like, wow, all I want to go do is play golf. And now it's like, that's the truth every day. But it's still like when 7 o'clock rolls around, I'm like, it's been a long couple of days. I'm going to relax a little bit. I'm going to go out and get some food or whatever it may be. Right. So, it's gotten easier as we travel every single week. And especially since, as I said, this year, I've learned a lot more about that recovery. And, aside from physical recovery, there's definitely like a mental strain in that. So I think that hour and those couple hours and shutting it down and not thinking about golf, and also kind of the sleeping till 9, those 2 days of the week, also, it really allows me just to recoup and make it to where golf is all that I really want to go do.
Absolutely. You got a bunch of good teammates at Tennessee. You got a bunch of good coaches. Tell us about what that team practice looks like, and also what qualifying looks like.
Qualifying varies. It really does. Right now, this top 5 is not being broken at all. We're winning, we're great. It's obvious who the top 5 are right now. There's no qualifying right now. There's just everyone knows it, and everybody's okay with that, because we got team players. Everybody wants to win. So, but qualifying wise, we kind of come in each year, and it's pretty obvious who's going to be like the guy or the 2 guys, right? So, those guys, they might still be in qualifying, but everybody knows you're still playing for 1 or 2 spots. And it's fortunate, Webb kind of has gone with a different approach. We have a little smaller team this year. We're only at 9 guys, but we don't have any red shirts this year, so we're all 9 competing for those spots. And I think I've played a little bit of a role in it, and so is Coach Webb, and Bo is kind of like introducing this idea and kind of beating it into these other guys' heads that the goal is not to qualify to go play in a tournament wearing the Tennessee golf shirt. We want to win. I could care less about making the lineup. I've never thought about it one time, and that's not because I'm guaranteed in the lineup. That's just because it's not where my mind is set. I'm not going to limit myself to that, right? I want to go win. I want to go win the golf tournaments as the number 1 player. And, I know we got we got guys thinking like that now, and we're fortunate enough for everybody to push each other every day to where it's simply like it's like qualifying every day out there. So, and if we have a guy go playing an individual tournament and he wins, then maybe the situation changes. But for now, I think everybody just wants us to keep having success, and everybody's working hard, and who knows what it's going to be like in the spring though. So
Absolutely, yeah. You guys have had success. You guys have been winning. We look forward to seeing you guys keep playing well as the year goes on and into next year. I know you got class coming up, so the last question we ask every guest is the same, and it's, if you could go back to yourself as a junior golfer and tell yourself just one thing, what would that one thing be?
man, I'm sure I'm not the only person you've ever stumped with that one. It would probably be something along the lines of like, it's gonna come, like, I used to always work so hard, and which is a great thing, right? Like to be able to work hard and really want something. But at times I'd get really down on myself if I wasn't performing well, to the point where it just filled me, right? It just consumed me. It was all that I thought about all day, and it was where I put all my worth and everything. So if I it's easy to say now because like that college life is here, right? But if it wasn't, it'd be different. But if I could just constantly have been able to remind myself that it's going to come, just let it come, right? And I would definitely say that to junior golfers is that your time's coming. Nothing's going to change your life tomorrow, so I kind of hung around with the idea that something was going to change my life tomorrow every single time I went to the golf course, so which in ways definitely is a positive thing, but in ways definitely brought me some disbenefit mentally.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you joining us. Where can people find you on social media? Reach out to you if they have any questions, anything like that.
Absolutely. Pretty much Instagram is kind of my main social media thing that I use. I'm not on Twitter too much. I have a Twitter account, but I think it's Caleb Surratt 1 on pretty much any platform. So anyone can reach out and if anyone ever has any questions.
Perfect. Be sure to check out Caleb. And then if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave a rating. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. This helps us get our message out to more people, help more people get better tournament golf. And if you are trying to find us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Tournament Code and on Twitter /X Tournament Code. As always, we appreciate you joining us and look forward to diving in deeper what it takes to play elite tournament golf.